Boys, how you going, Scotty?
Going good, man. How you going?
Yeah, good man. Been nearly a week since I seen you.
I know it's just too long in between Saturday night.
I know. How you doing, MG?
Fantastic. I'm just obsessing over my virgin velocity points, boys.
Mm.
Scotty's got me onto it, and I'm waking up every day trying to just get one more credit. How do I get an extra credit?
Just deciding where you can fly, just to accrue those
I,
credits.
I just can't wait to be in off season and fly.
So,
Honestly, that's the best because you don't have to stress. Like when we were in the lounge on Saturday, MT was able to, which she didn't really.
Oh, but the Coke, just even the Coke Zeros, the ability to chill, how good the bathrooms
so
were.
we've got to give everyone the backstory. So,
Mm.
obviously, we went to Brizzy on Saturday, flew in, flew out in one day. We flew Virgin. Now, Scotty has been flying enough that he's at a gold status. Is that right?
Yeah.
So he's allowed in the lounge, and MG and I, we're peasants, and we
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there.
we're getting there. So we're trying to build our points up. But Scotty got us in, and I've never had a lounge experience before, and it's so relaxing. It's like in there you can literally relax and just chill out. And yeah, like stuff's free, like free coffee, Coke Zero. There's some food there and stuff. But it
Even
was
just
definitely
the
a good experience.
bathrooms though, like it's so much cleaner. If you wanted to have a shower,
The
everything's
showers there,
immaculate.
yeah. So
Yeah.
now MG and I, we're trying to level up to Scotty's level and, and count our points.
Like I said to you, you boys will both be gold by the time season A next year rolls around. All of
Yeah.
the workshops and everything we have to run in the shows, you guys will, by this time next year, you'll be probably knocking on the door of platinum.
Yeah,
Man,
we
you,
had the flight to Brizzy, and then I know I'm going to Sydney in 2 weeks for the WBFF show, and then we have our flight to Adelaide for the Adelaide workshop in August,
And
and
then
then we're going to
back
try
to
to go back
Brizzy.
to Brizzy later in August again, and then we've got to do the show in Brizzy and the show in Adelaide. So there's a lot of flights there, and then plus MG and I we're going to be going up to the A&B Nationals in Sydney in November. So
I'm going to book that today.
are you
Yes,
going to
thank
book it?
you.
Oh, okay, done. Actually, let's book it together so we can.
100%. Even like, how I told you guys, Meave and I are moving, right?
Yeah.
I'm jumping on like the reward partners, and like Captain Snooze is one of them. Like, Meave, do you need anything from Captain Snooze? They got double points.
I'm going to get a Virgin credit card. I wonder if I get a credit card with those guys. There must be a way I can earn more points.
Yeah, there
There is,
probably
man. If
is.
you're with NAB, you get up to 70,000 bonus points when you switch across.
All right, I'm just going to start getting all these credit cards.
And you've got to book those Bali flights too.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Oh, good.
Virgin.
Nice segue.
Mm.
Yeah. Do we want to chat about that right
Yeah,
now?
let's do it.
Yeah, do it.
Okay. So something that we've been just keeping between us and between our team, and now we can release publicly because we fill majority of spots, but we want to open up this publicly. But we are holding our first physique retreat in Bali next year on March the 3rd to the 10th. So it's from a Sunday to a Sunday.
Hmm.
And what's good about it is the the 11th of March is actually a public holiday back in Australia. So you can spend an extra day there, or when you come back, you don't have to go straight back to work. But it's basically a retreat that's exclusively built for competitors and for coaches. So it's not like any other retreat that we've seen in the market or seen anyone involved in at the moment. We want to make it exclusively just for competitors and for coaches and built around that kind of aspect there. So obviously, it's in Bali, so you also get some sun. I've never been to Bali before, so you boys have. You've been to other retreats there in Bali, and that's one of the reasons why we chose that location. And you guys can talk a little bit about where we're staying and things like that because you've all been there before. But I'm just really looking forward to, just really sharing the experience with not only you boys but with like-minded people, creating connections and friendships with everyone else, and just being around an environment of people that really want to do the best, whether they're trying to be a coach or a competitor. Now, MG and I, we're going to be in prep during that time. But this is not going to be like any other retreat where you're going to be going out drinking and partying. It's literally going to be a retreat that's going to revolve around being your best coach or competitor. So we're going to make sure that even like the things of all your food is going to be prepped for you, as per your macros. So we've got motion meals. Correct me if I'm wrong, Scotty. We've got motion meals that will be making everyone's meals for them every single day, and it will be prepared as per your macros. So we'll be asking people what their dietary requirements are, so we can make sure that we have everything individualized for everyone. And obviously that's going to help MG and I a hell of a lot, because we're going to be in prep, and other people can be in prep too. Like, this is probably one of the only retreats where you could go away and still be successful in your prep, because we're going to have training sessions, at least 5 training sessions, all individualized. And we're going to make sure that, you know, everyone's going to be staying on top of their diet. So no one's going to be going off track. If anything, you're probably going to improve. You're going to have us 3 there that can guide you through the whole week. And, you know, the goal will be to come out being a better competitor or a better coach. But I know you boys have been at the accommodation that we're booking. So MG, you want to chat about the accommodation that we've got lined up?
Yeah, so it's an amazing place in Seminyak. Scott and I have actually both stayed there. It's absolutely phenomenal. The position's perfect. It's close to everything. So transportation and everything's going to be organised for all of our training sessions. And I know we mentioned like people in prep, and, you know, if you were doing a show in season A, you could absolutely do this retreat and still come back in better shape. But equally for people in off season, or anyone who just lives and breathes the lifestyle, the amount of knowledge that we're hoping to bestow on you across the week through, you know, seminars, but also being able to train with the 3 of us directly and have us there pretty much 24/7 to ask questions, other than when it's time to go to bed. You're going to get some pretty close access to things. And if you love the sport, then it's definitely going to be something for you. But, you know, not just to be in the sun in a tropical environment, being able to do the thing that you love the most around, you know, up to 30 other people who are exactly in the same position as you. But things like, you know, recovery, daily massages are all part of it. As MT said, all of your meals cooked for you, exactly to your macros, delivered to your doors. We're going to do things like, you know, a team hike, walks on the beach. You know, I've been overseas many times, and I've been to retreats before, but there is nothing out there like this, where you will literally come back 7 days later feeling your best, looking your best, and no doubt feeling a little bit re-energized as well, with a ton more knowledge. And for the price, and anyone who's interested, who wants to know a little bit more, just send us a DM either through the Prep Coach page or to one of us directly. It is ridiculously cheap for what it is. And the reason for that is it's the first one. We want to give everyone an opportunity to be a part of it. And that's why the first one's going to be so affordable. So I just can't wait.
You touched on seminars and education. Maybe, Scotty, you want to go through some of the things that we're going to be talking about in the seminars over there?
Yeah, for sure. And just before I do, I guess one of the biggest things I know for me that I want to try and pass on is, I guess, for athletes that are wanting to go from good to great, it's also learning and establishing some of those 1%ers that perhaps you might think that you're doing everything to the best of your ability, but it will give you a taste of essentially what it's like to live like a professional athlete, like 24 hours a day, from the way that you prepare for your training session, like hydration, the way that you approach it afterwards with recovery, with meal timing, active recovery the next day, you know, soft tissue massage, all those things. Like, everything has literally been thought of in terms of how could you optimize every single part of the day. Now, there's still going to be time that you'll have to yourself, which everyone will need it. And we're still obviously going to have our big work blocks with all of our athlete check-ins that we're going to need to do. So, but it really is going to be an incredible experience. And in terms of, one thing we should probably say is, how many spots did we say that we did have left?
We said 30 and we filled 23. So somewhere between 7 and 10, assuming that, you know, no one changes their mind. But yeah, not many.
Yeah, cool. So it's one of those things, and I'm sure they'll go pretty quick. Even some of the people we spoke to up at the workshop on the weekend were pretty keen to get involved. So yeah, if you are interested, just send a DM. We can go into it. But regarding the educational seminars, that's the other thing as well. We want to try and pass on, like, for athletes, it's one thing to have your coach, I guess, prescribe what you're doing, but it's another thing to understand, I guess, the physiology or sometimes the science or the rationale behind why those decisions are being made. And so if you're an athlete, you'll definitely have a lot more appreciation and a much better understanding for the processes, what's involved. We'll be going through, I guess, all the different phases within, I guess, a physique athlete's season. So from, you know, looking at the improvement season to the pre-prep phase, to the contest prep, to the recovery, and going through the important pieces to it. and also understanding some of the physiological components that are also, I guess, built around all of those different phases, as well as one of the biggest topics that everyone's always obsessed with, which is obviously peaking strategies and how to peak optimally. And we'll actually go through a real life case situation in terms of giving you a look from start to finish, what it looks like from day in, day out, so that from a coaching perspective, it will give you the tools and the resources to essentially, I mean, everyone's peaking approach is going to be different depending the individual, but giving you some basic fundamentals in terms of, I guess, a blueprint for the do's and don'ts and how you would build your peaking approach around that athlete, factoring in certain components. So there's that. And then just all of the training stuff that's going to go with it as well. Like, again, having access to 3 coaches who have spent a lot of time in the trenches. And again, you may think that you train really hard, but sometimes being around other athletes that train even harder, it'll just force you to go to another level. And then just being in that environment of like-minded people that are just there to be better and to improve, it's going to be pretty cool. We're all super pumped.
Man, how crazy is it? Like, if you love training, and most of us do, I'm not saying just us 3, but most of our listeners, like, if you love training, imagine a week where all you do is live like a professional bodybuilder, train, but you're in a tropical paradise. All your food's done for you. You don't have to think about anything. It's literally, like, for most of us, the dream come true.
I might not even come back. I might just stay there.
Well, you could easily work there.
Yeah, I probably could.
That's why a lot of people actually are living over there, man. And the bodybuilding scene's getting a lot bigger. Granted, it's a bit more in Pereiranon and Canggu. There's a lot of IFBB people that go there as well. But it's going to be pretty cool. And you're going to have plenty of opportunity to get some vitamin D. And that's why we're saying that if you are, there's going to be some that are in prep. And the timeline as well, if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to be going into a show in like 5 or 6 weeks' time, that's also been thought out. You can absolutely still come if you're a few weeks out. If anything, it'd be advantageous in terms of just topping up some vitamin D. Again, being around people that are supportive of the process in which that you're embarking on. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to be a few weeks out, it's not the best thing for me. If anything, it'd probably be better for you in terms of topping up the tanks, giving back to the system. And again, you might have a few takeaways in terms of how you're going to approach your last 3 weeks. But again, I've actually competed over there and spent a week there beforehand leading into my show. And I'm adamant it made a big difference in terms of the look I was able to bring, even just from a relaxation recovery perspective. It's going to be
steps on the beach instead of steps on a treadie. Sign me up.
Yeah, can't wait to hold hands with Scotty on the beach and just go for a walk.
It's going to be magical.
Actually, I just had a thought about this. Like, we're going to have to do a potty over there too.
Yeah, so we will.
Everyone that comes can be a part of the potty. And also, obviously people listen to the potty because they like to get a lot of information, like to ask a lot of questions. If you're there, it's pretty much a 24/7 podcast. It's like you can just continue to ask us questions and we'll answer them. So it's going to be fun. I'm really, really looking forward to it. And
plus, the other thing, the Twin Towers, the 2 Michaels, poolside, board shorts, the sun's out, the guns are out. I'm very excited, especially going into contest prep.
I'll be in a hoodie. I'll be in a hoodie the whole time.
There might be a few arguments on who gets to, put the coconut oil on which Michael, but other than that,
it'll be hoodies the whole time.
Scotty, unless I look like you look like right now, I'm not taking my top off, mate.
I reckon you'll look better.
Mate, so anyways, guys, if you want to be a part of it, just DM us, any of us individually or the prep coach page, and give us your email address and we can send you all the details that you need. And happy to have any chats or answer any questions that you may have. But talking about having your top off, Scotty, and taking a look at how everything's going, we obviously saw you in Queensland at the posing workshop for A&B, and we got a little bit of a sneak peek beforehand, and MG took some footage and posted it up. I don't know if anyone's seen it, but Scotty, looking pretty damn impressive. How did you feel about the whole weekend? I know obviously you're in prep and you had to travel, and we got some delays and things like that. But how was your experience doing that? There's MG showing it on the page.
I got a couple of great stills I didn't even show you, man. Apologies for that, but
that's all right.
Insane, man.
Yeah, no, it was good. If I'm honest, I was probably a little bit. I really wanted to see like getting some shots because I've never done any posing yet after having trained upper body. And I would
Mhm.
have loved to have done that with a few meals because it was actually a refeed day. But because of the time difference and the times we had,
Yeah.
we were literally on the flight and we are like, should we eat now? Should we wait? And
Mhm.
so we literally just pushed one meal and we went straight to the gym,
Yeah.
um, took our pre-workouts and trained. But no, it was good. I think all of us, you got, well, MG's dieting, but you're obviously not dieting, but we still all had our food planned out,
Yeah.
contingencies, which was good because I thought if we got stuck,
Well, that shot. I didn't
Yeah,
show you
it
that,
was
man.
there.
That's crazy.
Anyone's watching on video, MG showing up a photo of Scotty looking very sharp.
Oh, sharp as man. Just that chest, man. Poor was crazy, man.
Yeah.
Mind blowing the amount of density you've added through the upper shelf, but also just the volume through the bottom, man. When you did your side chest shot, I got one of that too. Crazy, crazy, man. Like I feel like that's come up so much. Equally, adults are just looking ginormous as well, man. Do you feel like in that shot it looks like it, but it looks like you've added a ton of mass through your arms in general.
Hmm.
yeah, it's an area that I still would like it to be better. But one of the things that I did after, and I always do after I finish the season, is almost get the red marker out and conduct my own SWOT analysis in terms of areas that are good, areas that need to be brought up. And one thing that I think we're all big on is it's not just sometimes it's adding tissue to certain areas, but it's really important, especially for me, to be very symmetrical, especially in the division that I'm in. So it's like if you're going to add some size to your shoulders, and you need to also make sure that you're adding some to your arms as well, because otherwise it creates an illusion that you don't actually have big arms.
Hmm.
So I've tried to balance everything out, but yeah, I'm happy with how things are going. There's still a lot of work to be done. Like in no way, shape, or form am I content with the end product that I want to present, but things are going well. But in terms of the logistics of traveling, I think the fact that we're always on top of little things. Like we got delayed at the end of the night,
Hmm.
and MT's like, I got some tuna in my bag. You're right. And then I was like, I had 20 grams of EAAs that I had there as a contingency that I could just
Yeah.
drink in a drink bottle. I would have rather eat, but it is what it is. But MG and I were just smashing the Coke Zeros in the lounge to keep us going, and thank God for the Monster as well.
Yeah. No, it was good. Yeah, it was a great workshop. Like obviously, training at Stafford in Worlds gym. Firstly, the weather. So it was 20 degrees there. We were in t-shirts. Everyone was telling us it's absolutely freezing, and we're like, "This is the best! Oh my
Paradise.
God, I love this weather." And
Paradise.
went to Stafford. We trained. Great workout. Ran into a couple of people there. One of my clients, Georgia, she came
Mhm.
and also joined the workshop too. So it was great to see her and meet her. And then she did some posing with us too. And we're so grateful that she was able to come and support and spend her time with us. And then we had a really, really good group that came to the workshop. We kind of split in two, and you guys kind of took over the figure athletes, and then Candice and I looked after, everyone else that was doing all the, bikini or sports or fitness, and we're able to go through. And I took this from another workshop, able to actually get Candice to be the model, stand in her pose, and explain what the judges are actually looking for and what illusions we're trying to create to give a certain look, and the
Mhm.
reasons why you would change your leg position or even your pose in general, depending on your weak points and your strong points. And then we're able to go through every single person that was in the workshop and adjust their poses to best suit their physique. And not just so, I didn't want to make it just a posing workshop where they just do a whole bunch of posing. It's like we wanted to make sure they got something out of it. So to be able to go through every single person and be like, you have strong quads, so I want you to stand this way. Okay, your upper body's not as developed as your lower, so you need to lean a little bit here. You need to do this. You need to do that. And we're able to give every single person that feedback. And I think people really, really enjoyed that. And obviously, yes, we got to do posing and call outs and comparisons and all that kind of fun stuff and show them, how the A and B stage kind of works. But I was really, really excited to meet everyone. Um, everyone asked Scotty what his little secret food on the podcast last week that he didn't tell anyone about. So we were able to tell everyone there because obviously they live there and they're not going to raid, the Doncaster shopping centre next to Scotty. So, And actually, Scotty, we had people message the page, and we first vetted them and asked them where they lived first
When they leave before you give it out. Yeah, because
before
I'll
we
send
gave
you
out the
the email of
information.
what it is. Yeah, yeah.
So if anyone wants to know Scotty's secret recipe, message the page and let us know where you live, and, and then we'll decide.
Yeah, I
If you
still
live
haven't
near
got.
Montmorency, you won't get it.
I still haven't got the video, Scotty. I'm still waiting for the video.
Haven't you got it, bro? I'm going to
I
send
want
it to you right now.
the instructional video, please.
Scotty's
That's
got an
honestly, this
instructional
is
video where
this
he's
it's
explaining the recipe. Sadly, Scotty is not in the video, so he's not like, just wearing an apron or something like that. You don't get to see Scotty's body. You just get to see his hands. And he just explains how to make the concoction. But
Do you rate it?
I haven't even tried it yet, bro.
Come on, man.
I know, it's hopeless. It's hopeless. Because you know what?
Send it to me. I will create it.
You know what I've done to reduce my food volume but allow my calories to be up? I've just been adding orange juice to like my lunches and dinners.
Yeah, that's what I used to do.
Yeah.
It just you get to that point where you just and it's like orange juice, cordial. Cordial's a bit harder to go down. I think like the sugary cordial, but as in just adding that, just getting in liquid calories.
Yeah.
I was getting at the back end. I was getting about 175 gram a day from cordial. Right at the end, like I was.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah.
But otherwise, how do you get in? Like everyone thinks it's cool to eat 800 grams of carbohydrate. It's not cool at all. It sucks.
Yeah, it's not fun.
No.
All right. Getting to some questions? Yep. You good? All right. Now, we kind of spoke about this.
And we want to give a massive thank you to Candice as well for coming up. Posing wise, Candice was awesome. She is a little pocket rocket. And
she's a vibe, man.
Yeah, she's awesome. She was just like one of the guys. She made
the whole day better, didn't she?
She did.
Yeah, she even managed to get a gentleman on the side of the road to sing a song for us at the traffic lights.
She did good.
Do you want to explain the story? Because Stewie, NBA founder, he gave us a lift back from Stafford to the airport, and we stopped at a traffic light. And what did we see, MG?
So there was a guy. He looked a little bit off his face. He'd had a few too many pre-workouts, probably a little bit more than that. But he was walking. He had a 2-liter milk in his hand, no shirt on, and a guitar around his back. And then as we're stopped at the traffic light, Candace yells out the window, "Hey, mate, strum us a song." And, mate, on 1 second notice, this bloke just straight into character, ripped it around, dropped his milk, pulled the guitar, started banging out this beat, and he started singing about how the traffic light was red and it was about to turn green. It all happened in 10 seconds. It was just the most majestic moment at the lights. And then when it went green, exactly as he said it was in his song, and it's about to go green, and bang, it went green, and we just all cheered, and it was fucking magical.
It was a great way to end our Brizzy trip.
Equally, and Scotty will agree with this, everyone we spoke to there was just happy.
Yeah,
amazing. Everyone treated us so well. Everyone was really positive. And training at the gym, everyone there was just happy. Scotty and I we'd do a set, walk around, do a lap of the gym. Do a set, walk around, do a lap of the gym. And it was just a good vibe.
Yeah, it was awesome.
When you're not freezing your nuts off, it's easy to be happy.
Yeah, true. Yeah. All right, let's jump into some questions. Now, I think we spoke about this on that day when we were just debriefing about certain things. A question about carb cycling, how to do it and why would you do it? Scotty, carb cycling. Why would you do it? Should you do it? Is it worth doing?
You can if you want. In terms of is there any superior benefit as opposed to just following a balanced macronutrient diet in terms of my carbohydrates are consistent, they're 300 grams on a training day versus they're 200 grams on a low day. I think if you're looking at periodizing your carbohydrate intake around your weekly schedule. So for example, if you're looking at dieting, it would make sense to periodize in my opinion, to periodize your carbohydrate intake on the days that you're training, because energy balance is a dynamic thing. It's not just my maintenance calories is 2,400 every day. So whether I train or I don't train, that's where it's at. So obviously on days where you don't train, expenditure is not as high, but also the demands for you to consume carbohydrate from a substrate perspective and know like they're not really there. So it would make more sense. And that's kind of how I approach my periodization with my nutrition, that on the days that I'm training, I dig a little bit harder in terms of a deficit, because I'm not expending as much calories other than just doing 10 minutes of recovery on a bike and my miscellaneous movement that I do for the day. That's the only expenditure I have. So I don't need to be eating my normal 2,700 calories. So I might only have 2,300 calories, or even potentially dig a bit lower and have carbohydrates lower. But on a day where, let's say that I've got a massive EV pool day on a Saturday, then I'll make sure that my carbohydrate intake on Friday and Saturday is a lot higher. And especially the day before, everyone thinks like if you've got a big training day on a Saturday, if you think I'm not going to have any additional food on the Friday, I'm just going to push you more on the Saturday. It's the wrong way around. You want to load whatever you're having the day before, because that's essentially the substrate that's going to be there and it's going to fuel that next day. So I think it definitely is important to structure your nutrition and allocate carbohydrates around when you need them when you're in a dieting phase. But when you're in the improvement season, if you're looking to try and put on more size and you're adding tissue, then you need to be in a consistent energy balance. And I think one of the biggest things that most people fall short on and why they're not able to make progress is because, and we've spoken about this, the consistency that people can apply in a contest prep may be very high, but as soon as you transition into the improvement season and the goalposts are no longer there and you don't have a show in sight, maybe, I only got 2 meals in today because I was busy and I went shopping and didn't have time. So if you're not applying yourself in the same, I'm eating 4 or 5 times a day, I'm making sure that I get those 4 protein feedings in, my carbohydrate intake is consistent, then you're not going to make improvement. So I think carb cycling in the improvement season is if you're trying to make gains, is stupid. I don't see any rationale behind why you would do that. You want to be consistent and get food in. Otherwise, if you're someone that's if you gain weight very, very easily, then maybe you need to manage it. And maybe on your low days, you have a little bit less if you're trying to manage composition. But usually they're the people that, if they're having to manage composition a little bit more tightly, it's because on the weekends I eat intuitively and I go to Hungry Jack's and then I have cocktails with my friends.
Yeah.
Versus if you consistent 7 days a week, then usually you won't have too many issues with that.
Yeah.
So I didn't really answer it specifically, but I think there's context for both. I think it's definitely, I don't know if I would use the term, I guess in a way it is carbohydrate cycling, but I would prefer the term periodization. So periodizing your nutrition around your training and obviously your composition goals. But in the improvement season, you just need to be consistent and you need to give your body a consistent, energy availability and, a minor surplus at least.
Yeah.
I think I reckon people are also confused about what they're doing that's actually producing the result. Because I've heard people that I've had consults with, it's like, oh, I did carb cycling during my prep and I was losing weight really consistently. It's like, oh, explain to me what your carb cycling was. Oh, I would have 5 low days and 2 high days. The 2 high days with carb cycling. It's like, well, that's not the carb cycling that's producing you the result. It's the fact that you're still in a calorie deficit across the week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think there's a bit of confusion out there as well as to, people think that is the magical formula. It's like, that's not the magical formula. The calorie deficit is still the magical formula for, and the net across the week is still what's producing you the result. The fact that you've had 2 high days, that's not the magic trick. So that's what people just need to understand. Is I think there's a bit of confusion around what carb cycling actually is. Having 2 high days is not necessarily carb cycling.
Yeah. I think 2 things. One is improvement season or off season. As you kind of mentioned, Scotty, it's about having the comp prep mindset 24/7 all the way through the year. We're all in comp prep constantly. There's a comp prep building phase and there's a comp prep fat loss phase, right? So it's like what we spoke about last week. It's like we should all have a comp prep mindset all year round. So being consistent with your food and with your nutrition. I think the only reason why you would maybe do cycling in the off season is if you're on so much food, you're like, on a rest day, I literally can't get that much food in. I feel like I'm force feeding. But on a training day, I feel like I could eat way more. So then maybe you might be like, okay, cool. Then, then cycle it then. On your rest day, go a bit lower because you feel like you're going to vomit. It's the only other reason. But other than that, I wouldn't use it, There's no other reason why I'd use it.
And if you are someone, and I would put myself in that camp, as I'm someone that typically has to push my food, and MG, you're in the same boat as well, pretty high to be able to continue to make gains. I think sometimes actually doing some cardio um, on your rest day, as a form of a recovery modality, but also as a way to consistently create the desire to eat. Because if I didn't do that, I mean, it's like you wake up, you get up at 5:30. The last thing you want to do, I could fast until like probably 4 or 5 o'clock and be like,
Yeah.
yeah, I could probably eat now. So you don't have that luxury. Whereas if you're expending a bit of energy, get on the bike, whatever it may be, that definitely goes a long way. Or even just getting up and going for a long walk, doing something to try and induce hunger so that you do have that desire to eat. Plus, as we start to get heavier, from a cardiovascular perspective, it can definitely be beneficial. So a lot of people would think, why would you do a bit of cardio in the improvement season, but maybe you don't do it in prep? Again, it's always context specific, but I think it can definitely be advantageous. It's a way to just keep, hunger levels there so you can still get in the food you need to get in.
Yeah. And then in prep, some people don't really have the luxury of being on so many carbs that it's advantageous to cycle it. So for instance, a day of higher carbs is not really that high that makes a difference, and a day of lower carbs feels absolutely terrible. So sometimes you might only carb cycle when someone is really struggling with their performance on certain training days. And you'd be like, okay, cool. On that specific day, go a little bit higher in your carbohydrate and a little bit low on your rest day on that day. So from a performance perspective, you might cycle carbohydrate, but as we said, like what works in a fat loss phase is being in a deficient, right? So if you can perform really, really well and have one set of macros every single day, then so be it. But some people have the luxury to have a lot of carbs in their fat loss phase where they can cycle them, and then some people don't. If you're a small female that maybe won't be on as many carbs as maybe a bigger guy, that the cycling of carbohydrates is drastically different. There's like 100 gram carbohydrate difference between a high day and a low day, where for some people might only be 50 grams or 30 grams or something like that. It's not a big deal. It's not a big difference. Yeah.
I think you also need to look, and again, this is something just through experience that I noticed, that typically the athletes that are usually able to eat a bit more typically tend, I find, to be the ones as well that train a bit harder when they're in the dieting condition. I think it's a lot of athletes, as soon as they start prep, it's almost an excuse. There's that conversation with yourself, oh, you're dieting, you've had a bit less food, so it's okay to maybe not push as hard, as opposed to having that mentality that you refuse to give up territory and that you are relentless in your pursuit every time you go into the gym to be better, to still chase progression. Again, greater energy expenditure will usually warrant greater energy intake. So I think there's definitely something to be said behind that as well. But equally, I think there's also it's almost like a badge of honor. I'm eating X amount of carbohydrate. And at the end of the day, anytime that you're consuming carbohydrate, you're blunting lipolysis. So as soon as carbohydrate goes in, you are no longer oxidizing free fatty acids. So until that you have chewed through that carbohydrate, and again, you've depleted glycogen or muscle glycogen stores, then you're no longer at that point back to, again, breaking down adipose tissue and oxidizing free fatty acids. So at the end of the day, what works for you versus what works for them, it's bespoke to the individual. At the end, you just want to get shredded. But if you can obviously get lean on more food, then that's great. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of people need to potentially have a look at their training and the quality of it. And sometimes, not even sometimes, I would say probably 1 in every 2 at least are probably just not training at the level that they're capable of. And they just use that excuse that, oh, I'm in prep, so, it's okay. So whereas I look at some of the best physiques and I see them train and I'm like, there's a reason why you have that physique. It's because you're an animal, whether you're in prep, whether you're out of prep, and people might say, oh, maybe you should just scale it back. And they would look at you and just say, well, maybe you should train a little fucking harder. Yeah. So I think there's something to be said for that. And I think that if you're in prep or you're in the improvement season, you need to really start emphasizing the importance of, training hard. A lot of people don't. We're so caught up in this sports science world of, don't train too hard now, where that you look at the days of We always say success leaves clues. You look at Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman, you look at the intensity that those guys used to train at, and then you see people that, are skinny, and yeah, they may have all these fancy degrees and they're telling you not to go within X amount or too close to that. But we know you need to go or take an exercise to complete failure to switch on that mTOR pathway. So if you're not doing that and you're leaving 2 or 3 reps on the table every single set, then you're missing out on a ton of progression.
Yeah. I think you put in your story the other day, it's a great saying, intensity creates density.
Yeah.
I was like, that's got to be on a t-shirt. I love that saying.
Yeah, so good.
Yep.
Yeah, intensity creates density. Love
But
it.
do you boys agree with that? That you need to
100%.
have that, you've got to train with that intent. And whether you, like I said, whether you're in prep or whether you're out of prep, because when you're in prep, yes, protein plays a big part in retaining tissue, but the biggest proxy for that to retaining contractile tissue is giving your body a reason to hang on to that.
Yeah. I think I say it in everyone's check-in. Train with intensity. Go hard this week. Like, train hard as you can. Even those in prep was like, you may not feel you're strong. You may not be progressing in some of the movements, so it could be slow, but just train as hard as you possibly can. It's going to make all the difference. And if you see, like, I'll bring up popular people in my team, but anyways, there's a lot more than that. But you look at a Candace, a Bridget, an Amy, they train real hard, and you can see it in their physique, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So, as you said, success leaves clues, right? Yeah, for sure. Next one. Can you chat about fiber during peaky weeky?
Fiber during peaky weeky.
During peaky weeky. I love
Can you what? I missed that.
Chat about fiber during peak week.
Oh, peaky weeky. Okay, peak week, right.
Who wants to kick it off?
Yeah, I'll start. In terms of fiber, I don't really change too much at the start of the week.
Mhm.
Depending on how much carbs are going in, equally, if you're putting in a ton more carbs, you don't want to be having copious amounts of fiber either, which is typically why I think us three will tend to take charge of a peak week. If it's not someone that we've already had on a plan, but we'll tend to take charge of a peak week just so that we're not over consuming fiber and running into issues with bowel movements.
Mhm.
And then typically, as we get closer to show as well, the day before and the day of, we'll pretty much have a very, very low fiber just to avoid any sort of GI distress or, bowel issues on the day of comp. But you got to think, for most people, if you're putting in, say, 200 grams of carbs, say you're a female, you're putting in 150 grams of carbs on an all day, and your fiber, you're getting around 25 to 30 grams of fiber, just as a round number. And then you go and bump that up to 400 or 450 because you're in peak week, and you're now punishing, 50, 60, 70 grams of fiber because you're adding in all these foods. I'm just talking about if you were someone who controlled your own peak week, you got to think about what that additional fiber could do as a consequence. And is that something that you want to be dealing with on peak week? Which is why for most coaches, we'll say, all right, we're going to take control of peak week. We're going to tell you what to have. Because we want to make sure that you're not over consuming and equally not under consuming fiber. Typically what we'll see for most people is that they're not going to under consume fiber on peak week because carbs are going to go up, they're going to over consume, and then can either run into, one of two things where, you're having really runny bowel movements, or on the other side, you just become really, really constipated as well, which is not good because typically that's going to lead to some stomach distension and these types of things as well, which is definitely what we're trying to avoid close to show.
Anything on that, Scotty?
No, I agree. I think you just want to tailor it down. Typically, normally just the afternoon. I keep fiber pretty consistent up until maybe lunchtime the day before. And then the main difference is you're watching it, but just being mindful that probably the last 2 meals of the day don't really have any fiber. You're having something very low fiber. And then the day of, you're not having anything in as well. But equally, if you're someone that hasn't been having a lot of fiber, and then you're pushing in more carbohydrate, if you're gradually loading as the week goes on, then as the week is unfolding, you need to make sure that you're still pushing in that amount plus some more to account for that. So if you work off around about, maybe 12-ish grams of fiber per 1,000 calories, if we use that as a rough ratio, 12 to sort of 13, And so if you've gone from 2,500 calories to now you're having 3,500, you're only having 24 or 25 grams of fiber, you probably now need to be having like maybe 32 or 33 so that, again, you can digest all of that food. But hopefully when you are loading carbohydrate, you're not just doing it like I've been having 150 now, I'm going to go to like 600 or 700, especially if you've been sucked down super low.
Yeah.
You need to be careful of that. Even things like refeeding syndrome and stuff like that. But I think as long as you're just being gradual in your approach and you do it and you're paying attention to the fiber, then it's fine.
Yeah.
I think rather than a lot of people stress on the like, yes, fiber is important and the total amount of the carbohydrate, but I'm big on, as you know, the amount of carbohydrate per meal and spacing it out. So if you're pushing in, especially if they're a smaller athlete or if they're a female, if you're pushing in like say 400 grams of carbs, giving them 4 meals of 100 grams versus say giving them 8 at 65 grams of carbohydrate, so much better in terms of digestion, metabolizing it, partitioning it. So I think more people probably need to pay attention to that. And if you are going to have to go on the higher end of that, utilizing, things like fructose, because they have different transporters to be able to go to that top end range of how much carb you can tolerate. And hopefully you've tested it before.
Yeah. I know when I was loading the girls in Korea, that was one thing we were mindful of, not for fiber just to jump up all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
And they were having no dramas with bowel movements whilst we were carving up, which was good. It was perfect. But I think you're right. Like, as you said, don't stress too much about fiber as long as it's pretty consistent throughout majority of peak week. It can go up a little bit as carbohydrates go up, but nothing too extreme. And then taper it towards the end, especially like the afternoon before the show, the day before. And then obviously on show day, limit it.
And make sure the night of that you get a good amount of fiber in, because equally you've had a lot of calories or carbs or food and you've had nothing.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I think, as you said, more important things are the carbohydrates per meal and spacing out the carbohydrates during the refeed days or the high carb days. And then, as we always talk about, having that correct electrolyte balance too. Yeah. To make sure there's no big changes in that. Yeah, and obviously that it's optimal too at a proper ratio. Yeah, that's right.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Okay. About a supplement. Thoughts on adrenal switch? Any of your clients use adrenal switch? Have any of you guys used it?
No, but you know who I saw whenever you say adrenal switch, I just think of Amy, because I saw she put something up about she uses adrenal switch.
Yeah, at night. So it's a supplement that people use at night. It's to help you chill out, go to bed. It's like a sleep aid.
Is it GABA based? Is it, or like what's?
No, it's got I know it's got ashwagandha in it, and
That's what I was about to say. It's got ashwagandha in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I've actually found that for most clients it works, but for some it doesn't. It actually revs them up, and I tried to investigate. I was like, why would it waken them up? And the only thing I found in the ingredients is it's got some vitamin B.
Yeah, well, that can do
vitamin
that.
B is supposed to give you energy, right, and give you a bit of a boost. Now, I know B6 helps with melatonin production, so I was like, hey, that makes sense. But I think there's some other B vitamins in there that I'd be like, oh.
Yeah, it's basically like a ZMA with ashwagandha.
Yeah.
It's a ZMA with ashwagandha. Other than that, some leucine. Nothing else really of mention. That's pretty much what it is.
You know?
It's ZMA with leucine and ashwagandha.
Yeah.
And B, yeah.
There's some B vitamins in there?
B6, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the only thing I could really find why someone would actually get revved up from it. But majority of people, it helps calm them down and go to sleep. So is it worth it? Is it BS? It's worth it if it works. I guess you can always just give it a shot. But majority of clients that need any sleep aid, I always recommend ashwagandha or melatonin. There's also some magnesium threonate, which is a specific type of magnesium that works really, really well for sleep.
It just depends on the dosages too, like 300 milligrams of magnesium.
Yeah. Do you use any sleep aids during your prep, Scotty?
No, I take ashwagandha I take it after I train, and then I have it normally when I get home from work just to power down and go to sleep. But I don't have any issues with that at all.
Yeah.
But I definitely notice a difference. I think it definitely helps. Like if I feel a lot more relaxed and chilled out, especially having it directly after you train, because obviously training, um, I really try and heighten arousal levels, and so I'm really revved up when I'm training. And so I think just to, you tap into those sympathetic drivers, and then obviously at the conclusion of it, you want to get back to a parasympathetic state and try and relax and calm down. And I feel like it helps me. Yeah.
So that's ashwagandha you take after training?
Yeah. Yeah. After I train, I have it. Yeah. And I have it even of an evening before I'm about 2 hours before I go to bed, just to chill out once I've
Yeah.
eaten some food.
Have you ever used a GABA, MG?
Yeah, I tried it a long time ago.
What'd you think?
Uh, I didn't like the way I felt. It definitely like put me to sleep.
Yeah.
Then I was waking up and couldn't get back to sleep.
Okay.
I think I pulled the plug on it like after just a couple of nights.
I tried it a long time ago also, and it kind of scared me in a way because you can feel it kick in and it slows your breathing. So I'm laying in bed and I feel like my breathing slow down. I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't have any control about this. I don't like
Yeah,
this.
I didn't like the way I felt either. I
Yeah,
did melatonin like consistently 3 milligrams every night for like a couple of years, but
yeah,
I haven't had that for maybe more than 12 months now.
yeah.
Um,
In the off season, I don't use any sleep aids, but in prep, I start to use melatonin ashwagandha. Yep, and it worked well. Worked really, really well. As we said, like the only thing that disturbed my sleep was having to go to the bathroom.
yeah,
But
guys, I've got a really good sleep aid for people. It's not very well known out there, and it's try at your own risk. But Lego, it's fucking
Lego.
Lego, man. A little bit of Lego just before bed, just to wind down a little. Scotty,
Yeah,
wasn't I
it's
like a kid
winding
at the
down, I
airport?
guess.
Wasn't I like a kid at the airport? What happened?
Yeah.
They had this, what was it? It was
The Lego Superstore.
no, but they had that black car.
Yeah, they had the They had like the Aston Martin. They had the supercar. It was
It
yeah.
was like $179 something. And he's like, bro, have a look at it. I'm like, come on, man.
No, oh, you're talking about the Mustang they had.
The Mustang. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love Lego, man.
Yeah. All right.
Anything
Next
that doesn't involve bright lights or a phone, and you just need it's really important. I think your sleep hygiene, things like dimming your lights and making sure that you've had at least a 90-minute period between when you finished your meal so that you can digest it.
Yeah.
And then, even the things you're watching on TV, if you're watching an action movie right before you're about to go to bed, that's probably not the best thing.
Yeah.
Speaking of action movies, bro, Covenant, elite, by the way.
Told you. So good,
You seen
right?
it?
Watched it over 2 nights.
Yeah.
Elite. Very,
Elite.
very
So
good.
elite, man.
Yeah, anyone that wants a good movie it's on Apple. It was on
It's
no,
on
it was
Prime. Yeah.
Yeah, so good.
How good,
Yeah,
right?
All right.
yeah, get on
Gotta
it,
get
bro.
into it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Anyway, that was the topic.
okay, next question. What do you think of coaches being on judging panels? It's a common occurrence with one federation, and her clients seem to get pro cards easily. When I heard this, I was like, I couldn't think about who it
Really?
would be. A coach being on a judging panel, it's obviously a female coach because it's saying her clients, and they get pro cards. I really try to think about who it would be. Now, I don't know
Coach, opposing coach?
No, it says a coach.
I can't
It says
think of
coach.
any Fed that has a coach.
Yeah, look, I don't think, even though I think there's some coaches out there that would be amazing judges, I don't think coaches should be on a judging panel, especially if their clients are in that show. Like if someone said to me, "Hey, can you go and judge a show in WA?" I'll be like, "Yeah, sweet, done, like easy," because I've got no clients there, right? It'd be fine. But yeah, I would never judge a show that.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I got no idea.
Whoever wrote it, message us, tell us who it is.
Yeah, it was an anonymous one.
Maybe they mean posing coach.
Maybe opposing coach.
It says that their client gets pro cards easily.
Could be opposing coach, but
But
Might be.
getting pro cards, like most of the feds we know, you got to win at a national show. And national shows normally have multiple judging panel. So
Yeah.
a few people have to sign off on that.
Yeah, I'm not
I
too
don't
sure
know.
about that one, but yeah, I don't think it should happen. I don't think that coaches should be judging, especially if they've got clients in the show.
Yeah.
What is a good amount of sets per week per body part? And does it need to be split up? Sets per week per body part. Do you kind of stick to a specific range, Scotty, for most people? I
I
know
think
females we find can do a bit more volume than males.
I think it depends how long the training history comes into it as well. And again, I think quality over quantity. I think there's so many people that do so much junk volume,
Yeah.
and it goes back to like what I was saying before, because their perception of training hard versus someone else's is very, very different. I think if you're truly training to complete muscular or mechanical failure on at least two or three of your sets per muscle group, then like that's probably going to be enough to switch it on. So I think ideally, if you can train every group twice a week, that's advantageous. So I would say anywhere from 8 to maybe 22, depending on the body part. Obviously, bigger muscles need a bit more attention,
Hmm.
but I mean, biceps, you get triceps, smaller muscles. It also depends on, people's physique and their muscular architecture, and also like where they need more work. So like I'll use Ethan as an example. Everyone looks at him now like, how many sets of quads does he do a week? And I'm like, at the moment, he does 5 sets
Mm.
because his quads are huge now. We spend a lot of time working on them, and now we don't need to. So, but we spend a lot more time bringing up his chest because that was an area that we needed to add more attention. So it's all sort of relevant. It depends on an area that needs more. Like, say you've got females, glutes are a lot more of an emphasis. If you've got a bikini girl and her glutes are lacking, then her glutes are probably going to get a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Versus if her quads are really dominant, then she may only have like 4 or 6 working sets per week. But again, it's what you do with those sets. And this is why I think as you become more advanced, as your volume in terms of the total volume goes down, it places more emphasis on the quality of that volume. And so if you're only doing 8 sets of quads and 8 sets of hamstrings, you better fucking make sure that you're really rinsing everything you can out of them. Because if you do that, you shouldn't really need any more than that, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think, I think probably 8 is probably the minimum from like a maintenance perspective. If a muscle group is like super dominant, I think 8 would probably be the minimum. What's that? 4 sets and 2 exercises a week? Like that's not much, right? It's not much at all. I think anywhere like above that 20 mark is probably getting up there for a muscle group that you really want to bring up. If you're doing any more than 25 or 30, there's going to be a lot of junk volume. Like it's probably not so many the total sets for the week. It's also how many sets you're doing per exercise. Like we've heard some people doing 5, 6, 8 sets in one exercise. It's like, how good your quality in that? Like there's no way you're maintaining a great quality every single set if you're doing 8 sets. There's just no way.
You're also probably not taking them
To
to
failure.
complete mechanical or muscular failure,
Yeah.
because if you are, the reboot time, you'd be there for 8 hours.
Yeah, you'll be there for ages. Yeah. I think one thing too is there's a lot of carryover. So you know how we're talking about like biceps and triceps? If you're doing a lot of pressing movements, then maybe your specific tricep volume or set volume for the week might be a little bit lower than what you would expect it to be because you've got so much carryover. Same with biceps, doing a lot of pulling movements, but we don't do so much bicep specific stuff because you've probably got a lot of carryover there. Yeah. But yeah, I think knowing how many sets you're doing per body part is super important.
Yeah, volume allotment.
Yeah. All right. Next one. Let's go to the next one. Where is it? There's one here. Oh, yeah. What do you find the hardest thing after comp day with clients? Food, cardio, weight gain, body dysmorphia. What's one of the hardest things you find, MG, with most clients after comp day?
Probably the latter things, man. I think comparing yourself always to the person that's the leanest, right? Yourself, like the leanest version of yourself. And then knowing that, as part of that reverse, that we are going to put a little bit of weight on, and it depends how good you are and how much self-control you display will dictate how much you actually put on. And in a lot of cases, when an athlete loses control a little bit and pushes it too far too soon, I think that body dysmorphia really starts to creep in. And the weight gain becomes more of an issue. I don't see any issues with people post-comp really with training intensity or training commitment, because you're fed, you're energized, you can't wait to go in the gym, you still look reasonably lean, but you're full. And equally for most people, cardio starts to reduce, but they've got a ton of energy. So even if there is a little bit of cardio post-comp because you just don't want to pull it all out too quickly, I've never really seen anyone have any issues with that. If anything, post-comp, most people wanted to do more cardio because they want to get back to that lean state, which is not what we want to achieve. But I think the biggest issue we see is, body dysmorphia and obviously the weight gain. And I think the best thing that we can do as coaches is, there's no way to ever get rid of that permanently or to prevent it from happening. Everybody's different. But I think the expectation that you set and the explanation of what to expect post a comp early on with your athlete is going to be the key to success. So I know we all do it, but we will map out, that first 3, 6, 12 weeks post comp and literally put a number on it as this is the rate of gain we should expect in the first 2 weeks. Then it should move to this, then it should move to this. So as these numbers present on the scale every week in a check-in, you don't have to fear them. You're like, oh, coach said that's what I was going to weigh. Oh, he said I should go up to that. Or he said I should put 4 kilos on in the first 4, like whatever it is. Yeah. So it's not a bad thing. It's a great outcome. You've actually achieved the goal I set out for you. So if you can put a positive spin on it that way, I think the best thing you can do is map out what that reverse should look like. I know we speak about reverses a lot. And then you can really control some of those post-comp issues because the expectation's already been set. And if I know I've got to put on 3 kilos in 16 days and I do it, I'm like, yeah, I ticked my goal. It's not a negative. It puts a positive spin on that. So I think what happens in a lot of cases, certainly a lot of the athletes that I start with, post their show and then switch across, is that there was no timeline. There was no expectation set post-show. It was just like here's your food's going to go up to this, and this is the reverse diet. Yeah, but what is the reverse diet trying to achieve? How much should I put on by what date? I think if all those numbers are there, it's a much better experience. And equally, from an athlete's perspective, not having to ask your coach a week into your reverse diet what the plan is. That should have been mapped out well and truly early. And I see that happening a lot, and they're the athletes that I see run into issues because there was no plan set up early enough to be able to kick things off. And once you're a week gone doing things on your own, sometimes the hole's starting to get big.
It's funny because some clients now have come to that 6-week post comp, and we've planned out their body weight. And I know I just had a check-in with someone this week, and they said, I've gained X amount of kilos since comp. And I was like, did you see the plan? You actually on your planned weight.
Spot on.
Where you're supposed to be, and then they got automatically happy. Like,
for sure.
That's exactly amazing. Right. So I hit the planned weight. I was like, yeah, you hit the planned weight. Oh, so I am on track. I was like, yeah, you're on track.
100%.
So it's about, the biggest, the hardest things we find people is the weight gain, right? But then setting that expectation of what the gain should be can show them that they're actually on track. You turn what's a negative in their head actually into a positive and be like, no, this is what you're supposed to be doing. This is where you're supposed to be. You're actually doing really, really well. Like, well done. Congratulations. You got to where you needed to be in X time period. So you should be proud of yourself. So you followed the process. So setting that expectation, like you said, MG, so that they know what to expect and it doesn't feel like they're going off plan. You're actually following the plan if you're gaining weight.
I think if you flip it on the other side, I think the hardest thing as a coach is if you have an athlete post that period who maybe doesn't stick to the plan and really takes freedom and enjoys themselves and goes further than they want to, that there's unfortunately no magical fix for that. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, well, most of the time, the fix is actually you need to push that a little bit further to try to address some of those issues that are going on. So you really do get one crack at it.
Yeah. And I think you're right too. That's the other hardest part is the adherence.
Definitely.
The diet adherence. And we've spoken about this so many times is, the work is not done when the comp is done. Like being a competitor is a process, right? It's a process, and there's a process going into comp, and there's a process going out of comp, and there's a process in the off season. There's a process into the next comp. Like it's a process, and setting an expectation that there is a process that we need to continue to follow to be our absolute best, is difficult for some people to understand because they're goal orientated. Comp done, goal done, finished. It's like no, not finished. It's not goals. It's not goal orientated. Be process orientated. Know that these are the next steps you need to take to be successful.
And if you want to improve, something that I find is really beneficial is actually going through with the athlete the areas of their physique that are strong, the areas that need attention, and making them aware that in order for us to make these improvements, you want to go again, you want to improve the look. In order for us to do that, this is where we need to get back to. This is our timeline for that. Until we get to that point, we're not able to start to enter that improvement phase where we can make these. And if you delay it or elongate it, you're just spinning your wheels and you're wasting time that you could be improving. So I think that can kind of incentivize, okay, we need to nail this recovery phase. 6 weeks, everything's really, really good, going to get on point, because then if I get that right, then I'm a lot closer to being able to get to a point where now we can really start to add some new tissue and improve my physique. Because otherwise, if you're so focused on maintaining that condition, if you didn't achieve the ultimate goal of whatever you wanted, whether it was an open class win or a pro card, then every day that you're focusing on just trying to hold on to those abs or a bit more vascularity is a day that you're not improving, and that your end goal is further and further and further away. And someone else is out there and they're working hard and they're willing to do what their coach says, and they're knocking on the door and they may open it before you do. So you don't want to waste a single day. You want to get through that first phase, bang, tick it off, cool. Now let's start improving.
Yeah, because if you lay it out to them, because most people go, oh yeah, I want to do next season. So it's 12 months time, right? So out of that 12 months, at least 5 months of that is going to be in prep again, right? 5, 6 months is going to be in prep. So now you've only got 6 months. And then out of that 6 months, you got about 1 to 2 months of reversing. And then you got 4 months or 5 months of improvement. It's not a lot of time. So if you don't do this correctly and don't follow it, there's not a lot of time to improve before you want to go into prep again, right? Mm-hmm. So when you kind of, show them the lay of the land, and actually there's not as much time as what you think, even though you think, oh, I'm going to compete in 12 months time. Like, it's all good, we'll take it as it comes. Like, no dramas, just got out of a show. I should be able to relax now. It's like, well, if you do have a goal to compete in 12 months time, it's not a lot of time. It's not a lot of time to make improvements.
You boys know we've been speaking about it with us three, but you two guys is in your season, like where you guys are, you're deep in your improvement season now, but we're constantly speaking about it's not long now in that pre-prep phase. So it's like, it's reinforcing the importance of don't waste a single day, because again, you understand that there's phases before the phase and there's elements before the prep that need to take place. So you just, if you're serious about progressing, you just don't want to waste any time.
Yeah. Awesome. Might leave it there, fellas. It's a good way to end it.
Yeah.
Be catching you guys very, very soon.
Absolutely. Hope you both have a great week.
Yeah, you too, guys.
Legends.
Thanks to everyone that asked questions and for listening, because I know some of you guys are listening during meal prepping. Some people are listening while they're doing workouts. Some people are listening while they're doing steps. Some people are listening while they're driving. So if you're listening while you're meal prepping, make sure you keep going, weigh everything to the gram. If you're working out, take this set really, really hard for us. If you're doing some steps, do them with intensity. And if you're driving, don't speed.
And hit us up about that retreat.
Yeah, and hit us up about the retreat if you're interested.
Yeah.
All right, boys.
It's good.
Take it easy. Talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye.